I am gross. I fart loudly and proudly, my burps rattle the foundation of buildings, I eat Spam willingly. Let's just say I'm not the most dignified of gentlemen. And I blame all that on how I was raised. No, I'm not talking about my parents, they were fine. No, I blame Shrek. Yes, Shrek, the hit animated movie from 2001 about an ogre who farts loudly and proudly, whose burps rattle the foundations of buildings, and who probably eats Spam willingly. If you weren't around back then, which almost 20 years later it's very likely that some of you weren't, you might not understand that this was the movie back in the day. It was an immense hit, earning back 8 times its budget, getting 3 sequels plus spin-offs, merchandise everywhere, and I was in the prime demographic to eat all of it up. And I absolutely did. Shrek was a massive part of my childhood. So many of my earliest formative years were spent watching the movies, listening to the soundtracks, collecting the toys, and so much more. This franchise had a huge impact on me back in the day. For better or worse. But these days, I don't think Shrek is remembered all that fondly. Like, people definitely remember it, but it feels like it's mostly meme fodder now, like B-movie or something. And I get it, Shrek is kinda easy to make fun of, what with its big smash mouth energy. But today, I want to take a sincere look back at my experiences with this series. So let's go on a nostalgia trip. The year was 2001, and I was just a little babby 5-year-old. The animation studio Dreamworks premieres a new animated family movie called Shrek, based off the picture book by William Steig from 1990, which... did anyone else realize that was a thing? Yeah, Shrek's based off a book. I randomly found this book at the library back in elementary school when Shrek was the big hot thing, but it feels like no one ever talked about it then or now. I guess that's all there is to say about it then. So, Shrek the Movie was basically a big parody of all the classic Disney fairy tale tropes. The main character, Shrek, is the monster who usually would have been the villain of a Disney movie. But here, he's just a dude. A dude who's been sent off to save a princess from a tower with a donkey sidekick because the guy who wants to marry the princess, Lord Markiplier, just couldn't be bothered to do it himself. But the big twist of the movie is that the princess, named Fiona, is actually an ogre too. So she and Shrek end up together, Markiplier gets eaten by a dragon that then falls in love with the donkey, and everyone rocks out to Smash Mouth having learned a valuable lesson about loving yourself for who you are, or some crap like that. An absolute classic for the ages, with all the fart jokes, burp jokes, inflated frogs, and weird onion metaphors you could ask for. But given my brain was barely capable of remembering 2 days ago, back when I was 5, I don't remember anything about how I first found out about Shrek, why I wanted to see it, or even watching it in the theater. Though I do remember leaving the theater after seeing it and having a pretty gnarly stomachache, which I guess was just my body's way of saying, that was a really good movie. Yeah, I guess you could say that's kinda anticlimactic. In fact, that memory is so hazy, I'm not entirely convinced it wasn't a dream. The first real concrete memory I have of engaging in any Shrek-tivities is sitting around my house listening to the soundtrack on my CD player. Remember, this was 2001. I enjoyed the songs, but for some reason, I remember feeling a little scared by it? Can't tell you why. Maybe the powerful voice of the Eddie Murphy donkey was just too much for baby Fofi to handle. But yeah, I guess I like Shrek. Don't remember why, I just did. Which means I've been into Shrek for literally as long as I can remember. That's a weird sentence to say out loud. Fast forward a few months, I'm sitting around with my parents, and they're like, alright, Ryder, your mom and I are gonna watch a movie. You should head back to your room. You wouldn't like the movie anyway, it's a chick flick. But I'm just like, something fishy's going on here. Parents don't usually tell me to leave like this, but I'm not leaving. And parents don't seem to care. Why parents being weird? My parents were like, alright, if you insist, but we warned you, you're not gonna like this movie. They turn on the VCR and... wait a second. That's a Shrek! What? Zip? What? What? Zip? What? How you do that? That's right, it was all an elaborate ruse by my parents to surprise my stupid butt with Shrek on VHS. How dare they trick me! I will now proceed to watch the entirety of Shrek on VHS as an act of protest. And of course, no talk of Shrek on VHS would be complete without discussing the
Shrek in the Swamp karaoke dance party.
Because the movie that ended with one dance party definitely needed a second dance party to play immediately after the credits. What 5-year-old wouldn't want to watch all their new favorite animated characters sing 3 seconds of a bunch of songs from the 60s, 70s, and 80s that they've definitely never heard before? Good times, good times. Oh, and we get to see Markiplier digesting in the dragon's stomach. That's a thing.
The king
But all that was just a warm-up for the real main event, Shrek II. Now this was where baby Fofi's Shrek hype was going through the roof. I don't know if this is a thing anymore, what with the newfangled internets and all, but back in 2004, Nickelodeon did this cool promotion where they'd show the first 5 or 10 minutes of the movie on TV before it came to theaters. And at the time, that was a magical thing to me. Seeing the start of a movie on TV before it's even out, that's like VIP treatment. So you better believe baby Fofi was sat right in front of my parents' dummy thick CRT TV to watch what was essentially a glorified Counting Crows music video. But it got me stoked. And luckily, this time around, I actually do remember seeing this movie in theaters. In fact, I remember seeing it a couple of times and absolutely loving it. Shrek 2 followed the gang back to Fiona's home, far, far away, where they meet her parents who hate Shrek, so they hire a cat named Puss in Boots to, kill him, but instead they end up becoming friends. It's the Steven Universe rule. Anyone who tries to kill you will probably end up becoming your friend at some point. There's an evil fairy godmother who wants her son, Prince Charming, to marry Fiona, but he's icky. And also not Shrek, so they have to be stopped. At one point, Shrek turns into a human, and this happens. I'm just gonna let that speak for itself, and the whole movie ends with an epic final fight scene set to a cover of the song Holdin' Out for a Hero that's a million times better than it has any right to be. This is better than the original, and no one can tell me otherwise. And all of that just made baby Fofi fall in love with Shrek 2. Now that I think about it, probably even more than the original. By 2004, I was 8, so I was able to, act on my childhood obsessions a bit more than when I was 5. I have way more memories of my Shrek 2 obsession than my Shrek 1 obsession. I had a bunch of the toys, including one of the gingerbread man that I always loved because it smelled like actual gingerbread, and somehow still does 16 years later. That makes me uncomfortable. I feel like that shouldn't be a thing. I had this garbage Puss in Boots game for the Game Boy Advance that I played constantly. And of course, I watched the movie on DVD over and over again. Actually, part of the reason I wanted to make this video in the first place was from those memes going around on Twitter about the Shrek 2 DVD menu of all things, making me all nostalgic. We don't really get stuff like this these days, do we? They just don't make DVDs like Shrek 2 anymore. And just like Shrek 2 took the franchise to the next level, the Shrek 2 DVD took the bonus features game to the next level with Far, Far Away Idol. Basically, the Shrek and the Swamp karaoke dance party walked so Far, Far Away Idol could run. We got a whole 6-minute parody of American Idol here, complete with actual Simon Cowell. I'm sure that'll age great and won't be dated at all in just a few years. Every character gets up to sing even more classic songs from before I was born, but this time, you actually get to choose a winner. As long as you choose a main character. Any other choice will be overruled by Simon as he hops up on the table to start belting out Sinatra because this is a real thing that exists and that I watched over and over. Yes, I do realize I'm talking more about the DVD bonus features than the actual movies here, but that's just the kind of kid I was. I'm not a review channel here, I'm just talking about the stuff that kicks me in the nostalgia. And my nostalgia runs far deeper than just the movies. It's all about the bonus features, baby! I watched the director's commentary on Shrek 2, you wanna go out sometime? I'm being stupid. But now we reach the decline. In 2007, Shrek III came out and I was 11. Still kinda young enough to be a Shrek fan, but I guess my interest was starting to fade. I went to the theater to see the movie, watched the whole dang thing, and I swear to God, on the car ride home from the theater, I forgot literally everything that happened. Everything. I mean, there was a part where Snow White sang Led Zeppelin. Justin Timberlake was in it, but his character just kind of looked exactly like Prince Charming, so I keep forgetting that he existed. Oh, right, God, the babies, the ogre babies. Those monstrosities are just about the only thing anyone remembers from Shrek 3. And then 2010 came around, Shrek Forever After came out, and I never even saw it. To this day, I've not seen it. So I think it's safe to say Shrek 3 completely killed my interest in the series. Legit, in just an hour and a half, I went from Shrek obsessed to not giving a crap. I don't think anything has ever killed my hype for a franchise that fast. From there, I just stopped paying attention, man. Puss in Boots got a spin-off, then a TV show, there were a bunch of holiday shorts and stuff, and I've seen absolutely none of it. At one point in my life, a Puss in Boots spin-off and TV show would have been super exciting to me, but just couldn't be bothered. And today, in 2020, it's been nearly 10 years since the last mainline Shrek movie, and 13 since I watched anything new from the series. In the end, I guess it just feels like they ran the series into the ground. Like I said, Shrek was pretty much the movie for kids back in the day, and it was kinda inescapable for a few years. But then it just kept going and going and going. But it really did affect so much of what family movies became over the next decade. The style of humor, the marketing, the dance parties, all of those family movie trends that are still around today mostly came from the success of Shrek. And heck, apparently we've got a 5th Shrek movie and a second Puss in Boots movie coming out eventually, so I guess they're trying to pick things back up. The ogre may have been sleeping for a few years, but he's about to come back with a vengeance. I guess. But if I can be real, and I think most of us could agree, Shrek doesn't really need to come back. We live in an era of media where nothing ever ends. And even when something does end, it doesn't end. Shrek had an incredibly successful run for like a decade, and those movies aren't going anywhere. If people enjoy these new Shrek movies coming out, then that's great. Heck, I might even like them. They could totally prove me wrong. Maybe there's still tons of lore yet to be explored in the Shrek CU. But for me, I'm perfectly happy with what we got. Those first 2 Shrek movies especially were defining moments of my childhood, as stupid as that may sound to some today. And the series left an impact on the industry that's still felt to this day. Not many kids' movies can say that. And I know it definitely left an impact on me. See?